The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep hum. Ambassador Kyomin walked through them, his black suit crisp and his face calm. Behind him came 5 other humans, all wearing the same dark clothing. They looked small compared to the giant aliens filling the huge room. Kyomin stopped at the speaking platform in the center. Around him, hundreds of different alien species watched from their seats. Some had multiple eyes, others had scales or fur or shells. A few looked like walking trees. Many were much bigger than humans. All of them stared at the small group from Earth. The chamber fell silent. Kyomin cleared his throat and began to speak. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the room. "We are humans from the planet Earth. Today marks our first day as members of this great assembly. We come here with open hearts and peaceful intentions." Dr. Haywan sat with the human group, watching everything carefully. She studied each alien species through her tablet, taking notes on their reactions. Some aliens leaned forward with interest. Others looked bored. A few seemed hungry as they watched the humans. Kyomin continued his speech. "We have traveled far to reach the stars. Our journey was not easy. Earth is what you might call a dangerous world. We faced ice ages that lasted thousands of years. Diseases killed millions of our people. We fought terrible wars against each other. But we survived all of this. We learned from our mistakes. We grew stronger." Elder Vorthak of the hegemony clicked his sharp mandibles together. He was 12 feet tall with a body like a giant insect. His species had conquered 17 different star systems. To him, humans looked like weak prey animals. "These soft creatures think they are strong," Vorthak said to his allies through their private communication system. "They will learn the truth soon enough. All weak species do." Kyomin seemed to sense the dismissive attitude. His voice grew firmer. "We ask only for mutual respect and the right to exist peacefully among the stars. We will trade fairly. We will honor our agreements. We will help those in need when we can." He paused and looked directly at the predator species section. "But understand this clearly. Humanity has survived everything our harsh world could throw at us. We are not easily broken. We do not give up. And we remember everything that happens to us." Captain Dongsu shifted slightly in his seat. His military training made him notice how some aliens were whispering to each other. Their body language suggested they were making plans. He did not like what he saw. "We hope to build lasting friendships with all peaceful species," Kyomin said. "We have much to offer and much to learn. Our scientists are eager to share knowledge. Our artists want to create beautiful things together. Our explorers dream of discovering new worlds alongside you." A delegate from the Silthari Empire raised one of her 4 arms. "What if someone attacks your people?" she asked. "What would humans do then?" Kyomin was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was very calm, but something cold flickered in his eyes. "We would defend ourselves. We would protect our families. We would do whatever was necessary to ensure the safety of innocent human lives." "But surely you would negotiate first," asked another alien. "Surely you would seek a peaceful solution." "Of course," Kyomin replied. "We always prefer peace. But some actions cannot be forgiven or forgotten. Some lines should never be crossed. Those who harm innocent people learn that humans have very long memories." Dr. Haywan noticed several species exchanging glances. She recognized the look from her studies of Earth predators. It was the same expression lions wore when they spotted a wounded gazelle. Her blood ran cold. The session continued for 2 more hours. Kyomin answered questions about human technology, culture, and government. He was polite and diplomatic throughout. But several times, when asked about human military capabilities, his answers carried subtle warnings. "Our ships are fast and well armed," he said at one point. "Our soldiers are well trained and highly motivated. We prefer not to fight, but we are very good at it when we must." When the formal session ended, the aliens began to leave. Some approached the human delegation with friendly greetings. Others ignored them completely. A few stared at them with open hostility or hunger. Captain Dongsu walked over to Kyomin as the chamber emptied. "Sir, we have a problem." Our listening devices picked up several concerning conversations. At least 3 species are already discussing ways to test our resolve. Kyomin nodded grimly. He had expected this. "Which species?" "The hegemony, obviously. Also the Corvin Syndicate and the Flesh Renders. They seem to think we are easy targets." Dr. Haywan joined them, her tablet full of data. "I recorded everything. Their biosignatures show clear signs of predatory excitement. They are planning something. Kyomin looked out at the vast chamber, now mostly empty. Through the great windows, he could see thousands of alien ships docked at the station. Some of those ships belonged to enemies humanity did not even know they had yet. "Send a message to Earth Command," he told Dongsu. "Alert all colonies and outposts. Tell them to increase security and prepare for possible attacks. If these species want to test us, they need to understand what they are risking." "What should I tell the Admiral?" Dongsu asked. Kyomin was quiet for a long moment. He thought about Earth's bloody history. Humans had fought each other for thousands of years. They had survived ice ages, plagues, famines, and nuclear wars. They had crawled out of caves and built spaceships. They had turned a dangerous death world into a garden. And now some aliens thought they could bully humanity into submission. "Tell Admiral Taijin that we tried diplomacy," Kyomin said finally. "Tell him we offered friendship and peace. Tell him we warned them clearly about our nature." He turned to look at his companions. All of them had the same hard expression on their faces. They were thinking about their families back on Earth and in the colonies. They were thinking about what might happen to innocent humans if these predator species decided to attack. "And tell him that if they choose to test us anyway," Kyomin continued, "they will learn why Earth's entire history is written in blood. They will discover that some species should never be provoked. They will find out that human rage, once awakened, has no limit and no end." Dr. Heiwan saved her data and closed her tablet. Captain Dongsu straightened his uniform. They all knew that war might be coming, but they also knew that humanity had never lost a war they truly cared about winning. The aliens had been warned. What happened next would be their choice. 3 months had passed since the Galactic Council meeting. Captain Minho sat in the command chair of his ship, the Soul's Pride, as it dropped out of hyperspace. Through the main view screen, he could see New Busan colony in the distance. But something was very wrong. "Sir," called Communications Officer Bowman from her station, "I'm not getting any response from the colony. No radio signals, no beacon transmissions, nothing." Minho frowned. New Busan was home to 50,000 humans. It was one of their newest colonies, built on a beautiful world with blue oceans and green forests. The colonists were farmers, teachers, doctors, and engineers. They had families there, children. "Take us closer," Minho ordered. "Full sensor sweep." Dr. Heiwan stood behind the science station studying the readings. She had joined this mission because New Busan was home to several of her research colleagues. The silence from the colony made her stomach feel sick. "Captain," the sensor operator said quietly, "I'm reading no life signs from the surface. None at all." "That's impossible," Minho said. 50,000 people don't just disappear." But as they got closer, the truth became clear. The colony was gone. Not destroyed, gone. The buildings stood empty and undamaged. The streets were clean. The parks were still green. But every single human being had vanished without a trace. Minho ordered landing teams to the surface. He led one team himself, walking through the empty streets of what had been a thriving human settlement just days ago. Houses stood with doors open and meals still on tables. Children's toys lay scattered in playgrounds. But there were no bodies, no signs of struggle, no evidence of what had happened. Dr. Heiwan knelt in the main square, running her scanner over the ground. The readings made her hands shake with anger. "Captain, you need to see this. The quantum signatures are very clear. This was done with hegemony disruptor technology." "Disruptors?" Minho asked. "What do those do?" Heiwan's voice was tight with rage. "They don't just kill people, Minho. They break apart every atom in a person's body. Complete molecular dissolution. It's like they never existed at all." The landing team searched every building, every street, every corner of the colony. They found personal belongings, family photos, and half-finished homework assignments. But they found no trace of the people who had lived there. The colonists had been erased from existence. Minho stood in the colony's school, looking at drawings on the walls made by children who would never come home. His hands clenched into fists. Why would they do this? These were civilians, farmers and families. Dr. Heiwan was analyzing data from the colony's computer systems. What she found made her sick with fury. "I'm picking up recordings from hidden surveillance devices. It looks like the attack happened 3 days ago. Multiple hegemony ships arrived without warning. They gave no demands, no ultimatum. They just started killing." She played the audio recording. The sounds of terrified colonists filled the empty school. Men and women calling for their children. Children crying for their parents. Then the horrible humming sound of disruptor weapons charging up. Then silence. They murdered 50,000 innocent people, Minho said quietly. For what? The answer came when they recovered the colony's communication logs. Dr. Haywan found intercepted hegemony transmissions that had been automatically recorded by the colony systems. As she read them, her face went white with rage. It was a test, she said, her voice shaking. They call it a stress evaluation. They wanted to see how humans would react to the loss of a colony. Would we negotiate? Would we retreat? Would we seek revenge? Minho read the transmissions over her shoulder. Elder Vorthic's words were preserved in the data. The soft mammals must learn their place in the galactic order. This small demonstration will show them the price of resistance. Soon they will beg for our protection. They think we'll be afraid, Minho said. They think this will make us submit to them. The transmissions continue, Haywan said. They're already planning to demand tribute from Earth. Food, resources, even human slaves. They believe this attack will break our will to resist. Minho activated his communication system. All teams returned to the ship immediately. We're going home. The journey back to Earth took 2 days. During that time, news of New Busan's fate spread through every human settlement in the galaxy. The reaction was not what the hegemony had expected. On Earth, Admiral Taejin received Minho's report in his office overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The old soldier read every word carefully, studying the evidence of what had been done to the colonists. When he finished, he sat quietly for a long time. 50,000 civilians, he whispered to himself. They killed 50,000 of our people to send a message. His aide, Commander Yu-jin, waited nervously. She had never seen the Admiral so still, so calm. It was frightening, sir, she asked finally. What are your orders? Admiral Taejin stood up slowly. He walked to his window and looked out at the ocean where his grandfather had fought in the ancient wars of Earth. His family had been soldiers for generations. They understood the cost of war and the price of peace. Contact every shipyard in the solar system, he said quietly. I want every ship we have armed and ready for combat. Recall all fleets from patrol duty. Activate every reserve unit. Sir, that's over 2,000 ships. Are we really going to war over one colony? Admiral Taejin turned to face her. Yu-jin stepped back when she saw his eyes. They were cold and hard as winter ice. Commander, they didn't attack a military base or steal our resources. They murdered 50,000 innocent people, men, women, and children, to intimidate us. They killed families to make a point. He walked to his desk and activated the communication system that would connect him to every human military unit in the galaxy. They wanted to test our resolve. They wanted to see what humans do when our people are slaughtered. They think this attack will make us afraid. His voice grew colder with each word. They have no idea what they've just awakened. The communication went out to every human ship, base, and colony. Within hours, the largest military mobilization in human history began. Ships that had been exploring distant stars turned around and headed home. Peaceful trading vessels were retrofitted with weapons. Civilian captains volunteered for military service. Back on New Busan, Captain Minho stood one last time in the empty colony. Dr. Haywan was with him, both of them looking at the memorial they had built for the murdered colonists. Do you think the hegemony understands what they've done? She asked. Minho thought about Earth's history. Humans had fought terrible wars over smaller insults than this. They had burned entire continents over less provocation. They had never forgotten an injustice, never forgiven the murder of innocents. No, he said finally. They have no idea, but they're about to learn why you should never test a species that evolved by killing everything that threatened them. In space above them, the first human warships were already arriving. Soon there would be hundreds more. The hegemony had wanted to test human resolve. They were about to discover that some tests should never be taken. The emergency session of the United Earth Parliament was unlike anything in human history. Prime Minister Jin'e stood at the podium, her usually calm face streaked with tears of pure rage. Behind her, a giant screen showed pictures of the New Busan colonists, families, children, elderly couples who had been building new lives among the stars. 50,000 innocent people, she said, her voice echoing through the packed chamber, murdered in their homes, in their schools, in their hospitals. Erased from existence like they never mattered at all. The parliament members sat in stunned silence. Many were crying. Others had faces hard with anger. All of them knew that this moment would change humanity forever. The hegemony calls this a test, Jin'e continued. They wanted to see if we would submit to their demands after they showed us their power. They thought killing our families would make us afraid. She paused and wiped the tears from her face. When she spoke again, her voice was steel. They were wrong. They have awakened something in humanity that should have stayed sleeping. Today we declare total war against the hegemony and every species that helped them. The Parliament erupted in approval. Every member stood and shouted their agreement. Outside the building, millions of humans watched on their screens. The same scene was repeated on every human world. Crowds gathering, faces hard with determination, voices raised in anger. Fleet Admiral Dong Su, promoted after his warnings about alien hostility, stood in the command center of Earth's largest space station. Around him, holographic displays showed the position of every human ship in the galaxy. Over 2,000 vessels were moving toward Earth, responding to the call for war. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving volunteer requests from every civilian ship captain in human space." "They want to fight," Dongsu nodded. He had expected this. Humans had always been like this. When their families were threatened, every person became a warrior. "Accept all volunteers. Retrofit their ships with whatever weapons we can spare. Every human who wants to fight will get the chance." Dr. Haewon worked in a secret laboratory deep beneath Earth's surface. The murder of her colleagues on New Busan had changed her from a peaceful scientist into something much darker. She was developing new weapons based on human knowledge of psychological warfare. "The quantum virus is ready," she told her team. "It will corrupt any AI system it touches, making enemy computers turn against their own ships. The bioweapon targets their fear centers. It will make them feel the same terror our colonists felt in their final moments." Her assistant, Dr. Junho, looked uncomfortable. "Are we sure about this? These weapons are designed to cause maximum suffering." Haewon turned to face him, her eyes blazing with fury. "They disintegrated children, Junho. They erased babies from existence to make a political point." "Yes, I'm sure." "They wanted to test our rage. Let them experience all of it." The first battle came sooner than expected. Admiral Tae-jin's advance fleet encountered a hegemony patrol near the outer colonies. The aliens expected the humans to retreat or try to negotiate. They were very wrong. "All ships open fire," Tae-jin ordered calmly. "No prisoners. No mercy." The human ships fell on the hegemony patrol like wolves on sheep. They didn't just destroy the enemy vessels, they completely annihilated them. The energy release was so massive that ships in neighboring star systems detected it from light years away. When the battle was over, Tae-jin sent a message on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Tae-jin of the human fleet. We are coming for every being responsible for New Busan. Surrender will not be accepted. Negotiation will not be considered. You wanted to test us. This is your answer." Back on Earth, Engineer Yu-jin led teams working around the clock to prepare for the larger war ahead. She wasn't just building new weapons. She was studying captured hegemony technology to turn it against its creators. "Every piece of their equipment has weaknesses," she told her exhausted workers. "They built these weapons to intimidate weaker species. They never expected to face enemies who could adapt and improve their own technology." Her teams were creating horrible new versions of hegemony weapons. Disruptors that caused slower, more painful death. Energy shields that reflected attacks back at the attacker. Computer viruses that made enemy ships attack each other. "We're not just going to beat them," Yu-jin said as she watched her latest weapon test. "We're going to use their own technology to destroy them completely." The news of humanity's response spread through the galaxy faster than their ships. Other species watched in shock as humans mobilized for total war. Most galactic conflicts lasted a few months at most. This looked like it would go on much longer. Elder Vorthak received reports of the first battle in his fortress on Hegemony Prime. His mandibles clicked nervously as he read about the complete destruction of his patrol fleet. "They're more aggressive than we expected," he told his war council. "But they're still just mammals. We have conquered 17 star systems. We will crush them like all the others." But his confidence was shaken when he read the human admiral's message. Most species would have demanded negotiations by now. Most would have tried to find a peaceful solution. Humans seemed to want only blood. On Earth, Captain Minho prepared his ship for the next phase of the war. The Soul's Pride had been upgraded with new weapons and armor. His crew was eager to avenge their fallen comrades from New Busan. "Sir?" his tactical officer asked. "What are our rules of engagement?" Minho thought about the empty colony. the children's drawings on school walls, the families who would never come home. "There are no rules," he said quietly. "They started this by murdering innocents. We finish it by making sure it never happens again." The war machine of humanity was fully awakened now. Every shipyard worked at maximum capacity. Every factory produced weapons and ammunition. Every human settlement prepared to fight to the death rather than submit to alien demands. Prime Minister Jin A made one final broadcast to the galaxy. "The hegemony wanted to know what humans do when you test our resolve. Now they will learn. We are a species that survived ice ages and world wars. We are predators from a death world. We have never forgotten an injustice and never forgiven the murder of our children." She looked directly into the camera, her eyes cold as space itself. "You were warned that our rage is endless. You chose to test us anyway. Now face the consequences of your choice." Across human space, the fleets were gathering. Soon they would pour out of Earth's solar system like an unstoppable flood of metal and fury. The hegemony had wanted to see what humans would do when pushed to their limits. They were about to find out that humans had no limits at all. 6 months had passed since New Busan. The galaxy watched in growing horror as human forces showed a level of sustained aggression that defied everything they knew about interstellar warfare. Most species fought hard for a few weeks, then sought peace when casualties mounted. Humans seemed to grow stronger and angrier with each battle. Colonel Jae-sung stood on the command deck of the assault ship Gwangju's Hammer, watching the massive fortress world of Vorthak's stronghold grow larger on the main screen. This was the hegemony's most important military base, supposedly impossible to conquer. The aliens had built it to withstand attacks from entire fleets. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the fortress has enough firepower to destroy 100 ships. Their shields are the strongest in the galaxy." "This is going to be a difficult battle." Jae-sung smiled coldly. He had fought in the siege of 3 other hegemony worlds. Each time the aliens expected humans to attack like other species. Direct assault, heavy casualties, eventual retreat. Each time they learned that humans fought very differently. "Begin Phase 1, he ordered. Psychological warfare. Dr. Haewon's teams had spent months studying hegemony psychology. They had learned that these insect-like aliens were terrified of certain sounds and frequencies. Now human ships began broadcasting a mixture of human battle, cries and artificially created noises designed to trigger maximum fear in hegemony minds. The sounds echoed through space and penetrated the fortress shields. Inside Vorthak's stronghold, hegemony soldiers began to panic. Their compound eyes dilated with terror. Some abandoned their posts and tried to hide. "What are they doing?" Elder Vorthak demanded from his command center. "This isn't how civilized species conduct warfare." His military advisor clicked his mandibles nervously. "Sir, humans don't seem to follow normal rules of conflict. They're using psychological tactics we've never seen before." While the fortress defenders struggled with terror, human engineering teams began Phase 2. Led by Technical Sergeant Boram, they didn't attack the fortress directly. Instead, they systematically destroyed every piece of infrastructure that supported it. They targeted the orbital shipyards that built hegemony vessels. They destroyed the mining stations that provided raw materials. They eliminated the communication relays that allowed the fortress to coordinate with other bases. They even destroyed the agricultural platforms that fed the fortress population. "We're not trying to break their walls," Boram explained to her teams as they planted demolition charges on a supply depot. "We're removing everything they need to survive. Let them sit in their fortress and starve." The siege lasted 4 months. Humans didn't lose patience like other species would have. They maintained their blockade with ruthless efficiency, allowing nothing in or out of the fortress. They broadcast messages describing exactly what they were going to do to every hegemony soldier when the fortress finally fell. Elder Vorthak tried to negotiate several times. Each message was returned with recordings of the screams from New Busan colonists, followed by promises that every being in the fortress would experience the same terror. Dr. Haewon had joined the siege to test her new psychological weapons. Her broadcasts didn't just threaten the defenders, they described in detail how human ancestors had hunted and killed every predator species on Earth. They explained how humans had survived ice ages by becoming even colder than the ice. They promised that hegemony suffering would last for generations. "You wanted to test our rage," her messages said. "Now you will learn that human anger doesn't fade. It grows stronger over time. Your children's children will pay for what you did to our families." When the fortress finally surrendered, the galaxy expected humans to accept and negotiate terms. Instead, Colonel Jae-sung ordered his forces to execute every defender. The fortress that had stood for 500 years was completely destroyed, its wreckage scattered through space as a warning to other enemies. The Galactic Council tried desperately to mediate the conflict. Ambassador Kyomin returned to address them, but his words chilled every delegate present. "You sat silent while they murdered our children," he said calmly. "You offered no help when 50,000 innocents were disintegrated for sport. Now you want us to show mercy to their killers?" He looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien species. Many refused to meet his eyes. "We warned you about our nature. We told you our rage was endless. You chose not to believe us. The consequences of that choice belong to you as much as to them." Captain Minho had been leading deep strike operations behind enemy lines. His tactics came from Earth's bloodiest conflicts, total destruction of enemy capability. His forces didn't just attack military targets. They eliminated every factory, every shipyard, every installation that could support future hegemony aggression. "Sir," his communications officer said during one mission, "we're receiving surrender offers from 3 more hegemony colonies. They're begging for mercy." Minho thought about the empty streets of New Busan, about the children who would never grow up. "Tell them they should have thought about mercy before they murdered our families. No surrender will be accepted." His ships left the surrendering colonies as lifeless rocks floating in space. The message was clear. There would be no negotiation, no compromise, no forgiveness for what had been done. Fleet Admiral Dongsu established permanent human bases in every system they conquered. Unlike other species who occupied territory temporarily, humans seemed to be planning to stay forever. Their bases weren't just military outposts. They were designed to support permanent populations. "We're not just winning battles," he explained to his staff. "We're changing the entire structure of galactic power. No species will ever again mistake human diplomacy for weakness." Engineer Yujin's weapons had evolved far beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Her quantum viruses could turn entire fleets against each other. Her bioweapons triggered fear so intense that enemy soldiers died of terror. Her new disruptor technology didn't just kill. It caused pain that lasted for hours before death. "They wanted to test us," she told her development teams as they watched another weapon test. "Every day we don't finish this war, more human children grow up as orphans because of what they did. So every day we make our weapons more terrible." The hegemony's allies began abandoning them in large numbers. The Corvin Syndicate surrendered after their home system was reduced to radioactive debris. The Fleshrenders begged for mercy after human forces demonstrated that they could literally turn the aliens' own biological weapons against them. But Admiral Taejin refused all offers of peace. His message to the galaxy was broadcast from the bridge of his flagship as it approached HFY itself. They started this war by murdering 50,000 innocent civilians. It ends when every being responsible for that crime is dead, and when their entire species learns to fear the very mention of humanity. The final assault on HFY was unlike anything in galactic history. Humans didn't just attack the planet, they systematically dismantled its entire solar system. Engineer Yujin's teams planted quantum charges that would render every world uninhabitable for 1,000 years. Elder Vorthak made one final transmission before his world died. "We only killed one colony," he pleaded. "Why are you destroying our entire civilization?" The answer came from Dr. Hae-won, broadcasting from the lead assault ship. "Because you killed our children to make a point. Now we're making a point of our own. The point is this: never test a species whose rage has no limits." When HFY finally died, its destruction could be seen from 50 light-years away. The explosion was so massive that it created a new nebula. Humans named it the New Busan Memorial, ensuring that every spacefaring species would be reminded of the price of testing human resolve. The hegemony as a species ceased to exist. Their survivors became refugees, begging for sanctuary from the very civilizations they had once oppressed. But humanity's rage was still not satisfied. The war had taught them something important about their own nature. Their capacity for violence actually increased over time rather than decreasing. Other species were beginning to understand that they had awakened something in humanity that would never go back to sleep. 1 year after the destruction of New Busan, the galaxy was a very different place. The hegemony no longer existed. Their species had been reduced to scattered groups of refugees hiding in the outer rim, begging for protection from civilizations they had once tried to conquer. But humanity was far from finished. Fleet Admiral Dongsu stood on the bridge of his flagship, Earth's Vengeance, as it patrolled what had once been hegemony space. His fleet of 300 ships moved through the sector like apex predators marking their territory. Every alien vessel they encountered submitted immediately to inspection. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a distress call from a hegemony refugee ship. They're requesting asylum in neutral space." Dongsu looked at the tactical display. The ship was small and badly damaged, carrying what looked like civilian survivors. Most species would have shown mercy, but Dongsu remembered the images from New Busan. Children's toys scattered in empty playgrounds, family photos left behind by people who would never come home. "Inform them that there is no neutral space for hegemony survivors," he said coldly. "They chose to test humanity. Now they live with the consequences forever." The refugee ship's engines failed shortly after. Whether it was mechanical failure or something else, no one bothered to investigate. In the new galaxy that humans were creating, some choices had permanent consequences. Dr. He Wan had become the galaxy's leading expert on human warfare psychology. Her research station orbited the ruins of HFY, a constant reminder of what happened when species underestimated human resolve. Her latest paper was required reading in every alien military academy. "Humans are unique among known species," she had written. "Their capacity for sustained aggression actually increases over time, rather than decreasing. Most species exhaust their anger within months. Humans can maintain battlefield fury for generations." Her research proved what the galaxy was learning through bitter experience. Other species fought wars to achieve specific goals, then returned to peace. Humans fought wars to completely eliminate threats, and they never forgot who had threatened them. Prime Minister Jin-A addressed the Galactic Council one final time. She stood where Ambassador Kyo-min had once pleaded for peace and mutual respect. Now the chamber was half empty. Many species had chosen to avoid any contact with humanity rather than risk provoking them. "1 year ago, you were warned," she said simply, her voice carrying clearly through the silent chamber. "Our ambassador told you that human rage was endless. Some of you chose not to believe him." She gestured to the empty seats where hegemony delegates had once sat. "They learned the truth. Their species no longer exists because they decided to test whether our warning was real." The alien delegates shifted nervously in their seats. Many had supported the hegemony's test of human resolve, believing it would put the newcomers in their proper place. Now they understood that they had helped unleash something terrifying. "We offered friendship," Jin-A continued. "We asked only for mutual respect and the right to exist peacefully. Instead, you allowed the murder of 50,000 innocent humans to see how we would react." She paused and looked around the chamber. "Now you know. We don't just defeat our enemies. We ensure that their children's children will remember the price of threatening humanity." Captain Minho had been assigned to establish the new Busan Memorial Station in the ruins of HFY. The station served multiple purposes. It was a military base, a research facility, and most importantly, a monument to ensure that the galaxy never forgot what had happened. Admiral Tae-jin joined him for the dedication ceremony. The old soldier stood before a wall containing the names and photos of every person who had died in the colony. 50,000 faces looked out from the memorial, reminding every visitor of the cost of testing human patients. They were farmers, teachers, doctors, and children. Tae-jin said to the gathering of human officers, "They died because aliens wanted to see if we would submit to intimidation. We ensured that 50 billion enemies answered for their deaths." The memorial had become a pilgrimage site, not just for humans but for alien species seeking to understand the price of threatening humanity. Every delegation received the same briefing from Colonel Jae-sung, who had been assigned as the station's commander. 50,000 civilians died here without warning or provocation, he would tell each group. They were murdered to send a message about human weakness. The response should teach you something about human strength. Engineer Yu Jin had built monitoring stations throughout the galaxy, each one broadcasting a simple message in every known language. Humanity remembers. Humanity avenges. Test us again at your own extinction. The station served as both warning and promise. Any species considering aggression against humans would know exactly what to expect. The technology in each station was designed to last for thousands of years, ensuring that future generations would understand the consequences of provoking humanity. Dr. Haywan's Psychological Warfare Division had made a disturbing discovery during their research. Humans were the only known species whose capacity for violence actually escalated over time when their families were threatened. Other species fought hardest at the beginning of conflicts, then gradually sought peace as casualties mounted. Humans worked the opposite way. The longer a conflict continued, the more ruthless they became. The more they lost, the more completely they destroyed their enemies. It was a survival trait from their evolution on a death world, and it made them uniquely terrifying opponents. Most species see war as a temporary necessity, she explained in her final report. Humans see certain conflicts as existential threats that require permanent solutions. They don't just want to win battles, they want to ensure the threat never returns. The Galactic Council tried to establish new rules for interstellar conflict, hoping to prevent future wars from escalating to the level of destruction humans had shown. Ambassador Kyomin returned to address their proposals. "You want rules to protect species from the consequences of their own aggression," he said calmly. "You want to ensure that no civilization pays the full price for threatening others." He looked around the chamber at the nervous alien delegates. "These rules would have been useful before the hegemony murdered our children. Now they are too late. The galaxy has learned what happens when you test a species with unlimited rage. That lesson will not be forgotten." The new order was becoming clear to every spacefaring civilization. Humanity had become the galaxy's apex predators. Their fleets patrolled trade routes with ruthless efficiency. Their bases controlled key strategic points throughout known space. Their weapons technology had advanced far beyond anything other species possessed. But most importantly, their reputation preceded them everywhere. No species wanted to risk becoming the next example of human fury. Diplomatic incidents that might once have led to conflicts were now resolved immediately in humanity's favor. Technical Sergeant Boram oversaw the construction of the final human base in former hegemony territory. As she watched the massive defensive installations being built, she thought about how much the galaxy had changed. 1 year ago, they thought we were weak, she told her construction teams. They thought murder would make us submit. They learned that some species should never be tested. The base would be humanity's permanent presence in this sector, a reminder that human memory was as long as human rage was endless. Future generations of aliens would grow up knowing that certain lines should never be crossed. On Earth, children learned about New Busan in their history classes. They studied the colony's peaceful life and its violent end. They learned about the war that followed and the price their enemies had paid. Most importantly, they learned that humanity never forgot those who threatened their families. The galaxy had gotten exactly what the hegemony asked for when they decided to test human resolve. They discovered that human rage truly was endless, that human memory was perfect, and that some species never forgave the murder of their children. In the end, the aliens learned that there are some tests that should never be taken. They found out that humanity was the one species in the galaxy whose capacity for violence had no upper limit. They discovered that when you threaten a species evolved on a death world, you don't get to decide when the fighting stops. The warning had been given clearly and honestly. The test had been conducted anyway. The results would echo through the galaxy for generations to come, ensuring that no species would ever again mistake human offers of peace for signs of weakness. Humanity had shown the galaxy their true nature. Now they would never have to show it again.